Cash. Is that one not working?
Is it on?
I can hear you guys and see you guys.
Hello? Yeah, I'm good. It got a little bit of reverb. John, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Okay.
But I don't know about Jeff's there.
How about now? All right, let's get this going. Do we do a pledge? Okay, we won't. It's a workshop. So let's call this workshop to order, and glad to have all of you here. Thanks for coming. Roy, thank you for sending out the latest versions and some of the comments that we've had on the, I can't think of the proper word, but rubric that we have for our budget questioning. Comments or report on that at all? What would you like to talk about there?
Yeah, Jeff, just a couple things. I've heard from 3 of the 5 entities. I have reached out the other 2. I really feel the 5 entities we reached out to give us a cross section of views. I think the big thing, wow, there was a sudden sound and the lightning and the thunder, but they, but I think the feedback that we're getting right now is just a couple of things. Number one, some areas need a little bit more space. And then one of the questions, could it be a fillable form where it expands based upon the area? And that's something we can take a look at. The two more probably intricate questions. One would be, I was asked about where an endowment would go. And I do think there's actually a question in there where it says, describe what other funding you have. And we have grant, outside agency, all kinds of options. And we can simply add the word endowment to there. And then the question, I think, from the airport was interesting regarding one of the first questions we asked, show us the different areas that your money supports us, the different specific programs. And Devin said, man, I have like so many, it would be hard to do. So we can look at some consolidations there. But really outside from a couple of mostly changes in space, the 3 partners that we've heard from all seem okay with the form. Have all given feedback. They like what it provides. In individual conversations. So I think that's a good piece. I do think one thing that came from Melinda Boston, Big Brother, YWCA is one thought would be, I do think we would want to hold a meeting or an opportunity for those organizations to meet with us to go through that line item by line item, just so they know, but we kind of knew that as a committee, we would probably have to do that. And my thought process, if we were to set a date to send the form out, we could say right before that form went out, this is going to be a day we're going to allow anyone that typically gets this form the opportunity to go over it. Lauren did mention the opportunity to maybe partner with the Wyoming nonprofit groups that would be there. I'd want to just check into the time sensitivity of that. And my only other concern is, and I shouldn't be saying this out loud, is are we opening a door to a bunch of new requests, which I think could be a conversation we need to have as a commission anyway. How do we advertise that we're looking for this? Because, that's being brought up in those kind of things. But I do think if we were to just kind of have our own meeting where we set and shared what we were looking for specifically, that would be helpful for the entities, especially since it's a new process. So,
Sure. Good.
but otherwise I feel good, Jeff, that we could probably start to look at moving forward with getting that, a date to get that form out. So,
Great. What other two entities did you send to for comments that you haven't heard back? from?
yeah, I did airport. I received it from airport, library, and YWCA. I'm awaiting drug court, treatment court, and then Golden Hour Senior Center. And I kind of figured going with those 5, we actually get a joint powers group. We get a how come I can't, what's the library? A component unit. And then we get one youth-based nonprofit, and we get one adult, the senior citizen center concept. And then we kind of get a special population out there with the treatment court. So I really thought by using those 5 entities as shareholders in that, we get a good cross section amongst everybody that would be looking at it from different sets of eyes.
Good. I appreciate you sending that out to all those for the comments, and I've appreciated the comments. I didn't read Devon's, but the other 2 I did read. I didn't have time to read Devon's quite yet, but
And it's a lot easier to let you read them on your own than having to go over each of them. So
true. No, I appreciate you forwarding those to us as well. So that was great. Comments from the group at all? Mary, Doc, or Lauren?
Devin, I'll just have a check mark. Which one of these are you? Are you component? Are you core? Are you NGO? Are you government affiliated? I think that will help us weed out priority.
Oh, okay.
helpers.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Doc?
No. Yes.
It's- you just got a new one and now it's not working already, huh? I doubt it. Here, you
1,
want,
2, 3, 4.
can you hear Doc, Lauren?
1, 2, 3.
Yes, I can hear him
Okay.
now.
Oh, yeah, swallow that. thing.
Gotta eat it, I guess. But anyhow, no, I really appreciated Devin's comments, and of course, YWCA. And I'd just like to say thanks for putting all that together. It'll be interesting to see it work and that type of thing. So thank you, Commissioner Lloyd, and for all your hard work into it, and Commissioner Toman for you working with him on it. But Roy, it's taken a lot of time, and you've really taken it to heart, and just want you to know, appreciate it very much. And
Thank you.
as well as thank you, Commissioner Toman, too, for helping. It'll be fun to, I don't know if fun's the right word, but it'll be different. But be nice to try something different.
It will be something. Yes, that's what it'll be. Thanks. Lauren, go ahead.
Just to throw the quick out to Doc, also a big thanks to Bonnie and John De Leon and
yeah.
Christina, who were an integral part of that committee also.
Thank you.
Lauren, what comments do you have for us on this?
I think it's a great first start. I think that I really enjoyed the comments back from everybody, and I appreciate their input and their time to go over it. And I'm really looking forward to just how we move forward with the process this year and having it be a little bit different and understanding a little bit more about those agencies and have it help guide us. So thank you, Roy and Mary, for the work that you've done.
Good stuff. Thank you. So on my list of things that ordering that we had, developing goals for the budget year. So raises, salaries, benefits, reducing services, or staffing levels was kind of number one. Setting a schedule for our meetings, which we have done, developing this application form, which is well on its way, and then setting a schedule for groups to present. So I guess ironically, number one hasn't been done while the others are well on their way. So time permitting, I guess, let's take a few minutes here and talk about what goals, what priorities do each one of you have in the budget year coming up? What do you feel is most important? What do we need to address? And we'll start. Doc and go this way, I guess, this time.
When you say what are your priorities, explain that a little bit. What,
Well, then I can go first and say that I really feel like we need to look at the salary structure for our staff. It's been quite a while since they've had any kind of cost of living raise. We've increased insurance expenses to them. And so for me, that really is number one. And I think that we need to look at that and then back into
Okay.
the rest of the
That
budget.
makes
So, yeah.
yeah, looking at it, I agree. I think employee salary schedule, salaries, that type of thing, very important. I think also following up behind that is we've let capital go in a lot of areas and that type of thing. So I think that needs to be number two along that line. So I know it'll be difficult to do those, but I really feel they're top priority prior to going into the budgeting process beyond the component units. Because
Excellent.
statutorily, we have to do some things there with the joint power boards and component units, but I understand that. But even in some ways, those budget dollars do not hopefully have to be dictated, but some cases it may end up being based on a joint power board until we get those agreements taken care of. But outside of that, I just really think it's when you take a look at what's happened with even through Social Security over the last 3 to 4 years, Social Security got a 5.9% cost of living this year, and they made a mistake. It should have been, they came back and corrected it and said it should have been 6.2. And then, of course, you take a look at the 1%, 1.5% that they put out the last 3 years. So on the average of a little over 3.5%. So it's, you know, we know definitely just tracking it the last 3 years or so, our employees are anywhere from 8 to 10% behind the 8 ball, but they've also been behind the 8 ball prior to that as well. So
Yeah.
I'm, you know, I think it's time. Take care of them, not balance the budget on their back, coach.
I agree.
Thank you.
Anybody have a pen I can borrow? I can't find mine. No. Oh, thank you, Cindy. All right. Mary.
Well, I have no profound words of wisdom, being the newcomer on the board. I'll preface it with that, but my ultimate goal is to see us balance the budget. And I know we're coming in at 5 to 7 million short, and I can see in the next 2 to 6 years that this county is going to see a major dip in revenues. And my goal is to make sure that we can smoothly get through those downturns without having to do rifts and laying off people. So I think that is very important that we be prudent now and make as close to a balanced budget as we can. And I don't disagree that, you know, our staff and salaries, maybe salaries are important, but I think we have to be really careful and that we have to make a sustainable budget that's going to carry us for the next 5 to 6 years. Not just this year. We've got to look out ahead and make sure that we're building a program that's going to carry us. I mean, it's real easy. We can dip into those reserves and we can just do everything we want to do. We can go Christmas shopping. And I don't think that's being fair to our constituents or to our staff. That's my profound speech for the day based on the big picture and not looking at the hard numbers.
You
So
said you didn't have profoundness, and there you go. Well, let me ask you this, Mary, before you pass the mic then. So we have, as a commission, set a
25 million.
25 million
Yes.
in reserves. And so when you say this year you'd like to balance the budget and not use any of those reserves, we want to stay, you know, outside of the 25
I do
million.
not think we should use any of those reserves. And the reason we shouldn't is because we're still working with ARPA and ARCA and ART and CARES and all those acronyms that we can't use those directly to balance our budget, but indirectly they are offsetting the funds that we're going to need. So I don't see why we shouldn't be able to balance the budget. If not now, never.
True. Okay.
So that's my
So your thought is we have those monies coming in, which we're not going to get again. So we probably should try to balance budget without dipping into reserves too much because we have these monies and then down the road whittle away at the. Okay. And then I always have been the, this is taxpayers' money. We should be spending it to benefit them. And so the 25 million is something that I think we need to get to and not be hanging on to too much money of the taxpayers. They've paid it now. It should be benefiting them now or soon, not 12 years from now or 20 years from now. So, okay. Roy.
We'll just start by chiming in on that topic that just got left off at.
Yep.
I'd prefer not to get down to 25 this year if we don't have to, because when we set that 25
Oh,
limit,
I don't want to do that this year at all. No, over years.
yeah,
For
I mean,
sure not
that's
this
my
year.
big thing is like we set that limit
Yeah.
as a set number. And if we got there this year, we wouldn't have it for the future.
No.
So that's just one of the things I wanted to make sure
Okay.
clear there.
Yes.
I'd prefer not to have to dip into reserves this year because if we
At
set
all.
that number at 25,
Okay, are you willing to go down to the 25 though?
no, I'd prefer not to. Just because I feel like then we don't have it for future years. And I think, and I want, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask Bonnie a question.
Sure.
Mary said that we were going to be down 5 to 7. The last presentation we got we were going to be up from last year. Am I correct, Bonnie? And I know that was just first quarter projections, but I want to clarify.
We do anticipate our revenue is going to be up quite a bit this year. I guess I'm a little bit confused. When you say balance the budget, are you including the cash carryover or not? Because there's different,
That's our discussion right now.
okay. And I didn't know if when Mary said balance the budget, if she meant with revenues or cash carryover plus revenues equals expenditures. Okay, and then ARPA also plays a role in it too, because we are going to have to assign some expenditures to. Right.
Sure.
That's probably where it's going to be is payroll for that revenue shortfall.
Oh.
So that it's kind of weird the way it works because our budget is on the cash basis and we've already received the first half of ARPA last fiscal year. We are receiving the next half of ARPA this fiscal year. And when we do the budget, this is going to be for the following fiscal year. We're not going to receive any of that ARPA funding. So we will have received it in the budget previous. We will have received it completely. So
Can I ask, is that in our reserves account? Is that?
yeah, the
insane?
first half is already in our
First half's already in the
reserves.
reserve, so.
And then the second half is budgeted to be in the reserves for fiscal year 22, because we are anticipating getting that in
So we
June.
will need to spend some money out of reserves, the ARPA money, but I know we've kind of earmarked it separately, not our reserves, but okay.
So I guess it just depends on your definition of balancing the budget, because it can be defined in a couple of different ways. So Roy, I don't even remember what your question was, please.
Are we getting more
You
money?
did answer that. You gave me way more than I wanted, but just general budget wise, not with ARPA funds, everything else. We were actually expecting an increase from last year, correct?
In revenues,
Yes.
yes. Yes, we were expecting an increase
Yeah.
in
Are we
revenues
are we
from
expecting an
last year.
increase in collections? Tax collections?
Yes,
Okay.
it'll be an increase because the production numbers are expected to increase as well as the dollar amount.
Okay.
So we are anticipating an increase in that for next fiscal year.
Mm.
But we did use quite a bit out of reserves. I believe we had about a $5 million cash carryover. And then we used about another, I think 4 million out of reserves last year.
How much money?
I believe it was around 4 million that we used out of reserves to balance.
I think you're right.
I think it was a 5 million cash carryover and around 4 million out of reserves.
Sounds
I could double check those numbers and give them to you, but
Mr. Chairman.
that's my recollection.
Yeah, that,
Yeah, what we may want to do a couple things is, I think have Dave Davis come in on agenda and present again, assess value, where we're going to be at somewhat projection. I think that'll help us and that will answer and support also what Bonnie has on increased revenue, to what tune. Second of all, I believe the sideboards are now determined for the ARPA money, which they will be out this week. In fact, I think we've been notified of different webinars on those, and I'm signed up for one of them. I think it's Wednesday, but anyhow, that's taking place. I think before we move forward with the ARPA money, I would certainly like to make sure that our grants manager, Ms. Marshall, has had an opportunity to listen to these presentations, determine the sideboards, and make sure that as we move forward with those dollars, she is a huge part of that, because she has been on the front edge. And I know for the last year and 9 months, when I was fortunate to sit in your chair, everything that came along from the state and national level dealing with ARPA dollars and CARES dollars, I made sure that Christina received it, as well as had the opportunity to participate it with all the Waco and NACO stuff. So I think she's really astute to it, and she might have some strategies for us and that type of thing. Yes, I think part of the reserves, like Commissioner Toman said, is in that reserve account, but they might be sitting over on the side in a different coffee can than the 27 or 8 million that's presently listed, or if there's any more there with interest. But it would be a good time to hear now to answer Commissioner Lloyd's question with a little more accuracy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure thing. Lauren, your thoughts?
Jeff, I wasn't done.
You weren't
That was
finished?
just my start, and then I got
Oh,
all these
man.
sideboards coming.
Oh,
That's okay.
Roy, what else you got,
So-
Roy?
So,
My
just
list
a
is
couple-
filling up.
you know, talking to Gene, I also, I think the capital committee had a great start last year. I'd like to see us continue that process, but also maybe start projecting out 5 years instead of one. I think that will really help, especially with some of the potential use, some of the ARPA money out there potentially. I think to me, employees are a place to start. I do think we have to see where we're at with our projections, and I actually had to stay on top of projections, bring Dave in and Bonnie in on a regular basis, but Dodd covered that. But I also think oftentimes we make employee decisions at the end of the budget process, and that's not always fair, because we've shaved and cut everyone. And I feel last year our departments took harder hits than some of the outside agencies, and I think we need to reverse that practice. I think we need to take a look at where we're funding and how we're funding outside agencies, and I think we have a good start on that and how we look at that with the changes we've just discussed a little bit. And then I do have in here that I do think we need to, as we get information on the ARPA sideboards and all the ARPA information, that we really sit down and strategically look at how we use that. And even though that's different than the budget itself, it is a supplementary piece that needs to be looked at. And I think the last piece is just how we do the budget in general. We typically listen to 25 entities in a day after we've met for sometimes 6 hours, and then we listen and we make decisions as we go. And I think we almost have to have more conversation before we talk to people and figure out and get more there deductively than just one at a time kind of going through things. So I think we just need a change in how we make people know, hey, after you present to us, if we ask you to talk to us, we may give you a number, but that's not the solid number. We're gonna have to sit down and it's almost like I hate to use this as an analogy, but almost like a Price is Right game, where this is where we're at and this is where the current requests are. Where are the first places we can start moving? And I don't think we should start moving those changes at our employees and our own departments unless there is something we see as egregious. But I don't think we see that, because I think when we go to our departments, they typically are the first ones that are cutting back projects. And Doc said, because of that, capital's taken a hit and we're behind in certain areas. And an area that often you see us be behind in is technology. So I think that's important. So that's kind of where I'm at, Jeff, for our budget stuff.
Okay, so I'd wholeheartedly agree that we start on that front end of like I mentioned, salaries. What do we feel like? Okay, what kind of raises do we want to give? What does that mean dollar wise? and then plug that in and then work from there to balance our budget. And like I think we've all said, outside agencies and things, maybe not getting what they did before, but we'll have to see. We got ARPA money and things. It's going to be a little trickier this year. Lauren?
I like going last because everybody's covered everything. Just
That's
kidding.
not bad, huh?
No, it's not. So I agree with everything that's been said. I think that the Roy's point on leaving employees' salaries and to last is very true and valid, and we need to start with that. I also agree with the capital issues, and I like that we're looking at the capital committee is going to start looking at a little bit more than just 1 year, even 3 years, because these projects are big and they cost a lot of money, and we also can potentially tie some of those maybe urgent ones into special purpose tax if there's something big that we really can't fold into what our needs are. And then I also think we need to continue to look at where we're duplicating services. I think we've done a really good job of that over the past few years. However, I still think that there's some areas that we can adjust and cut. I don't want to say cut back, but it's cutting back on our end. And it may be fire is one that's standing out. I've had multiple people come up and talk to me about fire services over the past, since our last meeting, and before that even, and just concerned that this is where we're potentially wasting money or spending money where there is being duplicated. And so that's something that I really want to look into and make sure that we aren't duplicating services and that we are doing exactly what we should be with those funds. So that's where I'm at.
Good. Thank you. Excellent. Other thoughts on budget then, Mary?
I just want to circle around to what we said last time,
Mhm.
which would be starting next month, we would start with electeds, department head, core government, outside entities, and we would go through them. And I think the salaries and the capital can be addressed through the department heads and elected officials. If you're dealing with the HR department, they could come with 3 options, for example, and we could take it to the commission and select one. So I think we are working at it in the order that we have talked about of putting the priorities on core government and then component units and then outside units. So I think if we just continue down that road with our schedule of meetings on Mondays or whenever we decide to do it, and try to get through those in February and March, then April we'll be dealing with the outside entities.
Agree.
That's what we kind of talked about doing last.
Good. Any other comments on budget then?
Yeah, one just last note, Jeff, that I missed here. I think we should, and it's going to take a while to make this idea happen, but Lauren did mention how we're currently evaluating fire. Last year, we took an evaluation of ambulances, led us in a different direction. I don't think we just need to stop at those 2 departments. I think we could really start looking at a lot of departments and a lot of places that we fund internally and making sure we're efficient. I think, and then almost, changing some of the prototypical, thinking of government more toward thinking of like it as a business where we find the efficiencies, the duplications. And I think continuing to identify areas that we can review and take systematic approaches to vet and look at is also important as a budget as a whole. Because I also think it's important to know that there's just not 1 or 2 areas that we need to look at. There's probably multiple areas that we can look at. So I do think down the road, that's an important process.
Do you have any in particular that you want to look at?
I've got my hands full with ambulance and
No, I mean, I
fire
don't
right
mean
now,
you, but I mean, overall, are there areas that you're you'd like to-
Jeff,
putting you on the spot? You brought it up.
I know. Well, if you want to just go on,
Counting it.
statutory comments, you could take a look at probation and parole. Because that's not a statutorily juvenile probation and parole. That's not a statutorily required thing. And you could also look at VSO because we do VSOs differently than most other entities. That could be the first 2 starts. And we may find out as we do it, as we go through the fire process, how we do it's the most efficient already, but we don't know. And we don't know that until we start taking a look. And so those are 2 areas. And I think, I don't think when you're, once you start rolling with those, I don't think it hurts to take a look at every department. I mean, I even had a department director say, hey, I'm okay if we take a look at my department, because sometimes when you run your own department, you kind of get used to what you're doing. And sometimes outside eyes sometimes
Mhm.
do help.
Absolutely.
So that just, so I do, but I mean, if you want to go statutorily, those are the first two. And like I said, we may find, I don't want those entities to be worried like any other entity, but I do think those are some conversations that can be had.
Absolutely.
And I really truly believe if you're talking about non-statutory, you got all your outside agencies. They're
Exactly.
non-statutory. You could cut funding to them next meeting
Mhm.
and you'd be perfectly fine.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I hear you.
Fine.
If you're talking
Legally, yes.
if you're talking non-statutory, you
Yeah.
just can't pick on you can't just choose the ones that are within core government here, which those two that you brought up are.
Right.
But non-statutory, that throws those two as well as others into outside agencies as well as some pieces of component units.
And I agree with that, Doc. I think as I was answering Jeff's question, it was more based
Yeah.
on the internal components, but I do agree. One thing I've talked about the last couple of years is really taking a look at those outside entities, because at the end of the day, it's great to fund them when we can, but it's not always the biggest priority at the end of the day. So,
And of course, when and I'm not disagreeing with you, but when you work within within core government, you're talking about people we're employing, and you talk about taking jobs away from people, then you're targeting our people. We're targeting our people, not, I don't mean you personally, I mean we as a commission, when we make a decision along that line. So I think, yeah, need to look at it all, but there's some unintended consequences with all of it.
Mhm.
And I think as we move forward with any of them, there needs to be an opportunity to advertise and have public comment with any of them, because there are impacts out there that, and those impacts are unintended consequences in all those areas, whether it's juvenile probation, you're talking a whole gamut of stuff. You're talking schools, you're talking parents, you're talking a lot of stuff. When you talk fire, you're talking far corners of the county. You're talking people that are paying taxes and expect to have that type of stuff. When you're talking the other areas as well. So I just think I think it's a great start, and I think it's a great direction, but let's not sacrifice our own people, and forget about the stuff we really, really don't have to, if we, that don't need to be providing services for, and that can get funding other places. And these services that may be needed can only get funding through us because they're part of core government. I'm just, keep that in mind. There are unintended consequences as we move forward. Thank you. But I like Roy's idea.
Some of them might be good. We can restructure, contract, downsize, upsize. I think one thing we're going to have to consider, our revenues might be up because of oil and gas prices, but also our expenses are going to be up because of the price of fuel at the pump, for
Mhm.
example.
Yeah, inflation. It's
So,
gonna gobble it up.
kind of balances out or doesn't balance out.
Sucks it right up. Okay, with that then, let's, so I showed up last week. I thought we had our meeting last week, so we didn't. Yeah. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate that. So, I mean, we technically be scheduled for a meeting next week. Do we want to do that, or do we want to? 17th is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Our,
I thought the 24th was.
I believe our next meetings would be next month.
Okay, so
But
next,
The
we get the
third
7th,
Monday.
and then the
is
21st would be President's Day.
President's Day. So just food
All
for
right.
thought. And we should let Sally know after that as well, because she'll have to do all the advertising.
So on the 7th, who would we like to visit with, starting with, core? Do you have any preference of an order? All of them on the same day? That's what I'm asking is I mean, do we want to,
Start with
Who-
the
who do
biggest
we want to pick?
budgets on the elected, start with the big budgets, work down.
so Cindy has to go first. Sheriff. Oh, yeah, sheriff. Okay, so,
Maybe we can come up with a list.
okay. All right. We have a little time, 3 weeks to. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so. By our meeting next week, I'll put together a list of, unless somebody else wants to, of an order for elected officials. To start, and then we will see if we need more than the 7th to.
Well, we could go to a different Monday. We could go to the 28th or the 7th. I don't know.
Okay.
Are we keep it our meeting date or the same Monday as our meeting date?
We were trying to do it the Monday before meetings, but next month, the 1st is a Tuesday, so that will be our meeting day. So, yeah, but so it's just kind of goofing it up a little bit. So we're not going to meet the 21st, so either the 14th or the 28th we'll meet. But let me put together the schedule and see how long we think we need. So maybe we go 7th. Yeah, unless anybody has Valentine's Day plans, on the 14th. So. You romantic, Roy, come on now. I know you got big plans.
I would love it.
Your wife has plans. Probably with her friends. Okay, so we will plan on meeting twice in February, 7th, and then a yet to be determined date. Okay.
Let's just say, let's say 7th and 14th. Because the next one is March. It would technically be a plan of March. Wouldn't have a March meeting date.
It's on the 28th of February, so that's still February. Yeah. Okay. $14th. Okay. It's usually my travel week, so we'll see. Anyway, let's we're certainly planning on the 7th. We got 3 weeks even before that. And then next week we can decide on beyond that. And we're asking them to present to us their budget ideas for this coming year. True? As soon as we set an order, yeah. And then our funding request, is this 7th at 4? And then our funding request form. Are we ready for prime time? Is this thing ready to go out? A couple of tweaks? What do
I'll
you
make
think?
some of the requested, we'll make some of the requested tweaks. I'll get with Bonnie and we'll work through that. And then I do want to give it a couple days to see if we do get the other feedback.
Sure.
And unless it's significant, we can just move forward with that and then present that maybe at the next commission meeting of, hey, here's the final product. Go from there. Okay.
And who are we sending this to? Solely outside agencies? But this is going to component units as well?
I think it could go to component of units as well.
Should we have the electeds do it as well?
I don't want to send that to the electeds.
Come on. Let's send it to the elected officials as well, just for that. I'm kidding. Let's not do that. Right, Cindy?
That means the chairman gets to fill out the commissioner's one, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, or delegate it. He's an excellent delegator. Just saying.
Not only fill it out, but he's got to present it.
Oh, man. Doc, that's right up your alley, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
I get to use the scissors.
There you go.
I get to cut.
Okay, so do we have a date, a send out date for this, or is it too early to say for that?
We could, let's, we'll make an official send out date at the next meeting.
Okay,
We're not going to see those entities for a bit, but that will give us time to be able to sit down and go through the form with them and give them time to do the form because it is different than they've ever had.
Okay, we're working on electeds in January, February, then we do department heads, and then we get kind of preview in March for the outside.
correct. Okay, any other budget items at all? Okay, strategic planning. Do we have any agenda items there that we'd like to talk about? Just to treat as we strategically plan for the future. I think we kind of have done some strategic planning here, so that's good. The money goes hand in hand with the planning for sure. Okay. Anything else to present then here at our workshop? No? Anything, Lauren? You good to go?
I'm good to go.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you. And we will close this formal, informal workshop. And I appreciate your time. I don't have a gavel or anything, but there we go.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you. Oh, and I'll text you, Lauren.
Okay, sounds good.
I wasn't ignoring you.
I know.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.